it again.
No, I like where this is going.
Poor
Is
David,
everyone
he's
shooting
shooting
at
right.
me?
I like that. I told her, you've been eating all the food in the pantry for the last time.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
I expect that to happen at work one day. Except I'm working from home. I'm working from home now, so I have to shoot myself.
You've been stealing your own
joined the
lunch.
working from home club. Congratulations, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been working from home ever since my office burned down.
Wow.
What?
No, this is coronavirus stuff. I work in a hospital. We're trying to preserve the staff by rotating us.
Yep.
No, it's a love gun, I swear. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So are you like sticking your staff in a centrifuge or?
Like, please don't stay in the hospital long. That's a bad time.
Yeah. I have a friend who's undergoing cancer treatments, and she just came out of the hospital. It's like, this is not a good time for you to have a no immune system.
Yeah, that's the real threat of this disease. It's not the disease itself. It's just that it chokes up the hospitals, so people who need treatment can't get it.
Well, I mean, if she gets coronavirus, she will die because she has nothing to protect her.
Yeah, I have a friend who is like 8 months post kidney transplant. She's frightened. But on a lighter note, here we are in virtual reality where you can't catch anything.
Woohoo!
You catch another kind of virus altogether.
Oh my god.
That's right. That's very true.
I love you. Click on this file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that? Well, a lot of people are doing stuff with this. They're like making fake information sites.
It's my intention to wash my hands as soon as this meeting is over.
You're gonna wait that long?
Wash your keyboard as well.
Yeah, I can wash my
take
keyboard
a
off
shower
with you guys.
and put up a webcam so we can all be sure you're doing it right.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Kenneth, are you recording?
Well, of course. We're
I thought
live.
you were holding the camera, Kalila.
This is a new. Oh no. Oh yeah. Smile and wait for the flash.
It's like the Acme. It's like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner.
Shoot a picture.
So it's snowing like crazy here. I don't know why. Hello. It's halfway through March.
Barely here.
So now
I'm
that
going to turn my
we
volume
have
down.
everybody here, should we?
Maybe it's me.
No,
should we
it's
talk
me.
about what's happening?
About what? About everything?
The highlights of the dev meeting, basically.
Right.
Specifically, one thing. But yeah.
People trying to read lips.
Which one? Are you talking about like project naming? Are we talking about K2? K2. Right, guys. So K2 is totally around the corner. Because we've pretty much QA'd the apps. Like maybe the decentralized go-to have another little pass at that, but at best, basically we'll have all of it merged in by Sunday, and then we will.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just mean merged in the apps, so that way we can like release an RC2 with all the changes up to now, which is quite a few changes, and then we'll test it for a couple days with everyone here, using the latest clients. And if everything goes well, we will snip off K2 and have that before next meeting. It'll be good.
Awesome.
Is that cause for me going back to my storage unit and getting a bottle of champagne out of storage?
Oh, that would be lovely.
Sure.
Sure, Sam?
Is that a milestone?
Wait, what?
It is.
Is that actually a milestone, having that K2 thing?
Oh, K2? Yes, it is.
Okay, so for people who may be watching and don't know, can we talk about those couple of features? What's coming? Basically, what's different now in the version that we're going to be releasing in a few days from the final build of High Fidelity, at least to the general community? What are they going to see that's different?
You're asking for a lot there.
Just
Can you give
basically
me
like
just
three
a
main
moment?
things. Okay.
I have like a list, the release notes. It's really
The
helpful.
highlights.
Oh, sweet. I got it. Yay. So, there is quite a few nice changes I think that people are. I mean, there's a lot of technical changes, and then there's changes that you'll notice. I know it's harder to appreciate technical changes sometimes, but rest assured, they are a big deal and they really do help. But for the ones that you will notice, there is things like a QML and entity script whitelist. So for anyone who's been around high fidelity for a bit, you would know about the griefers, the trolls, and how they've really abused that. So it is disabled by default, but you can enable the whitelist to help screen apps based on domain, and that should help secure you at least in case of emergency. So we now have like a plan of action, whereas before you were pretty much screwed. You would have to lock down a specific domain, and you can only go to the domains that are locked down because there was no way to really secure a client. So that was like the first feature. Now we have full chat capabilities. So you can press enter, type to chat, you can type across domains. So there's cross domain chat. So we got all that good stuff. We haven't added it to VR yet. I mean, the UI in VR is not working very well for the chat, but that's on the to-do list. And then we have things like serverless domains, where you can load an entire domain from a file on the internet. There is, there's no multiplayer support for that, no mixers. But at least if you want to have an art gallery, for example, or an experience that doesn't really require other people to be there, and you certainly don't want to, have spend the money or have the technical know-how right away to set up a domain, you could literally deploy the exported JSON file to a web server, any web server, and that kind of acts like a single person domain. So they can experience whatever you want them to experience right there. That works pretty well.
Do you mind if I comment on that real quick?
Of course.
Basically, short version is people will be able to create their own domain without having to buy a place name or any of the old features or any of the old tethers that we were stuck with. So maybe you had a place name already, Bob's House, and you bought it from High Fidelity, whatever, and that's expired. You don't have to go out and buy a new one. Basically, all you got to do is use our new Explore tool, click a button, it drops a little cube in your domain, and then you can name that. And then everybody who has Explore will see your location and they can get there. So in other words, anybody will be able to make a place, and you don't have to register any kind of domain name. You just tell it what you want it to be called. That's all.
I feel like that one was actually a separate one because I was talking about serverless domains, but yeah, that is like the next topic, which is that we do have a new go-to that's temporary before the new Metaverse API does go online. But yeah, we do have that ability because now you don't have to have a place name. You can just deploy it and people come. So that's a pretty good feature, I'd say. And then we have also, actually I told him, may I ask? I don't remember. In the inspect.js app was always included with the client, but it was never a default script, was it?
I didn't know that this was ever included with it. But
Yeah, I've always had to load it from Fox Essentials. I wasn't aware it was in the client area.
Did we actually? I must have done that way back when, and then I just got used to it.
App.
It is. It is. So for anyone who's familiar with Second Life camera inspecting, where you hold down the Alt key and click on an object you want to view, now that's default functionality in Athena. So you can basically do it pretty naturally. So you don't have to
And if you
move
don't
to
like
look
it,
at
you can
something.
remove it.
Exactly. And that's the wonders of this. You can just unload a script if you don't want to use it. So that's pretty convenient. Oh, and a really nice one, which is a More app. Okay, so I know it doesn't sound like much, but think of the Google Play Store except without paid apps. So we have a new repository where any developer, community developer, can upload their apps. So if they have a cool script, a cool feature, such as the Inspect app or like a navigation app or say Basinski's scaling, a grab to scale in VR mode. All of that can be added to this application and it gets updated live in the client because it's pulling directly from the repository. So you can have the latest features and applications in between releases. So that's a pretty big deal. Now system apps are not deployed that way, so you're not gonna, have any stability issues on that front, which is good, but also I know some people would like faster updates, but at least we have a way to distribute community creations, which I think is a pretty big deal because there's been some really nice stuff people have made, but they just haven't had a way to distribute. So that will be included with the interface by default, so everyone will get to see your creation. I think that's a pretty big deal.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, and then there is also a beta feature. So Fluffy did create a beta apps feature for the default scripts. I know this is a bit more technical, but basically what it does is allows a actual system default app to be loaded from a URL by checkbox. So what that allows you to do is get the latest version now without waiting. So if you wanted to be on the beta branch, you can, and you wouldn't have to download and install a new version of interface or anything. And it's completely optional. There's no problem on that front. And then for technicals, I don't know how many of you are familiar with shaders, but Hi-Fi Experiments did some wonderful work on that. So we do have things like procedural shaders on meshes, avatars. They are no longer needs like things like environment variables. So it's just a checkbox in your client, and then you get to see shaders. And there have been multiple GLTF fixes, like alpha modes, and so on and so forth. So now those hopefully work better. And then we have things like just various bug fixes, such as your avatar, like getting wearables to work correctly, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I could go on for a while, honestly, but mostly the rest is just bug fixes and a lot of work that a lot of really good people have put into it. But in terms of features, I think we have quite a few awesome stuff. And then we have other stuff in the works, such as like blend shapes on models, you know? That's going to come for K3. So things like that might allow ways for clothing. I don't think Nova is here, but he was going to prototype things like seeing if it would work effectively to make clothing for avatars. There's stuff like that. And Alesia's update to the Create app, which is where you can have tabs instead of the infinite scroll bar of doom when you're in VR, for example. I'm sure many of you have seen that when you go into the properties and you have to scroll constantly to find what you want. Well, now it's going to be a little bit more like Blender, Blender 2.8 to be exact.
Wait, that is going into this release?
No, I'm talking about K3 here. I'm so sorry. I should have really emphasized that. That's for next release. And it's just cool stuff we're working on. I think people will like it because it's quality of life things that you'll be able to see immediately, and it really helps the life flow there. But yeah. So as you can imagine, there's a lot to talk about and a lot to do. But honestly, we've been really hard at work and gotten a lot of stuff done behind the scenes, such as Linux interface. Um, Dale has set that up, so if you're on Linux, hell yeah, we've got that going. So yeah, we got a lot going for us now.
Yeah, so short version, in a few days, we're going to have a release. It's going to have a lot of really good stuff in it.
Yes, that is a really good way to say it. I should have just said that.
Woohoo!
And if you're not happy, I'll take your picture. I knew I was good to be suspicious of this. This is not a camera.
I just thought it was a spectator camera when I first saw it.
By the way, anybody who's new, welcome. Good to have more faces here. I think a couple of you started showing up last week as well. Hello.
Hi.
Ooh, what's this? Our
Let's see, how many do we
next
have
salon.
right now? We have got 16 or 17 people. Very nice.
That's actually pretty
Wow.
good. This is a pretty good community meeting. I like it.
Sure.
Okay.
So, as we do have this release coming out, right? This is probably going to be a time where we have a little flood of people popping in and checking out, and I'm just going to say what I will personally try to do is I'm going to do my best to hold the hand of anybody who comes in and gets excited and wants to create a domain and help them out. I mean, I can't guarantee my full attention 100% of the time, but I'm going to try and make myself available when I can.
Dan,
So feel
people
free
can
to.
make. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I'm with it. Can people create new accounts now?
There's no accounts needed for this actually.
So how do people get in?
Hit the skip login.
Yeah, so when you start up the interface, as Heather was saying, it's going to give you that big old title that says, "Hey, log in," but something you may not notice if you don't have an account or don't want one. At the very bottom right, there's a little button that says "Just no log me in." Right? You don't have to log in. Now, it is worth noting that depending on whose domain you go into, some of them may require an account, but that's up to the person running the domain.
Don't worry, the camera.
So if you get there and it says can't connect, that's probably what's going on.
Shut up!
Actually, you can create new accounts from login menu.
Oh, you maybe have
but that's high fidelity accounts, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. You can do that if you want. Just be aware that we have no idea how long high fidelity will keep up their account system. It could be for a long time. We don't know. So if you want to, go for it. But eventually, we'll be replacing that with our own account system. But for the time being, you can still do things like give people permissions to their domain based on other things besides accounts. Which I'm not going to go into here, but I can talk into if somebody wants to create a domain or whatever, and they want to create some permissions. Just feel free to reach out to me, and I have some solutions for you. But yes, you can still use high fidelity accounts if you want to. Just keep in mind that we don't have any control over those, and those could disappear whenever high fidelity chooses. It's all up to them.
Sorry, guys, can we keep this in the form of a single conversation, as this is a meeting we're having? Please.
Oh, he's trying to.
I guess.
Should we
anyway?
Should we move so that they can have their meeting?
So anybody who's new, do you have any questions or anything? Or is that actually who went out there? Let me see.
Yep, that's who we're driving off, I think, yeah.
Hopefully voice attenuation works.
I know that was really annoying. The one meeting before.
Alrighty, well, how's everybody doing?
The world around me has gone crazy, and for some reason it's snowing.
Oh, yeah. What do you guys think? CoronaCon 2020? Yeah? Right here?
Woo-woo.
So hi, Blue Cell. Welcome to a project with
I notice everybody seems to be shifting toward virtual conferences right now.
I'm really a nice person, trust me. I know.
Actually, I'm curious if any of you here who've already run domains.
I cannot see you, so.
Actually, has anybody experimented with a larger domain? I think Kenneth, you had one that could have like 40 plus people at one point. Did you know?
We had over 50 here at the goodbye high fidelity party. I just cranked up the settings a little, yeah.
See what you're trying to download if you want. I think if you hit the slash key or something.
And yeah, the cinema I know could handle well over 50 people.
I'm experimenting with domain scaling right now. Actually, it wasn't working very well when we were developing a meeting because I screwed something up, but it seems to be working okay in when set up right anyway. I hope that for the next meeting I can demonstrate something.
Was that mostly in the audio codec, or were there other things happening that were?
Yeah, that was mostly the audio codec. I'm working on actually having dynamic scaling so that the server can expand as the load raises.
Nice, very cool.
Oh, okay, cool. Excellent.
Oh, okay.
So what's on everybody's mind?
Your cache, that would maybe fix it.
Oh yes, I will do it.
No, my alpha waves are low, so it's hard to tune out the other stuff.
Do you want me to make soothing sounds for you? Like wow 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 wow.
I like it.
I'm gonna head back.
There you go. This is I
We
told
talk
it
about.
ASMR.
We could talk about upcoming events.
Yeah, actually, that's a great topic. All right.
Hey, there's a salon tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's salon tomorrow on the ultimate topic. What the hell do we need philosophy for? And then of course there'll be
Trivia?
trivia on Wednesday. Last week's trivia was a blast. It was really good. And Judas was even in for a few minutes.
Oh, how is he? How's Judas?
He's okay.
I like that
His
avatar.
ears are bigger than ever.
You think he's gonna be jealous that we're having trivia without?
No, because if he was jealous, he would be here.
My avatar or
Your avatar, yes.
Oh, its name
So on that note, talking about events, since we have the release coming out in a few days,
There is no Mario.
what that means is it's probably going to be easier to find each other, right? Because we'll all have the explore button. So what we did today to get here and like having to type in an IP address and that wasn't correct.
Okay, I didn't.
Won't have to deal with that anymore. People will just be able to open their Explorer and say, "Oh, I want to go to Fran." Click the button, bloop, and it should be universal for anyone. So if we are going to have any more events, now is probably the time to start thinking about them. Like, is there anything we want to do that we haven't been doing, simply because we didn't want to try and wrangle people?
What about doing the Pictionary again?
Okay, we could start
I
thinking
think
about that.
Basinski had that machine that did it.
Okay, that's a good point. I guess maybe we should reach out to Basinski and see what his current release of his build tools look like. See if it might be ready for it.
why actually?
But if not, you can always do it with
high
primitives too.
fidelity is kind of shutting down, and we're kind of.
There's something I would like to address.
I
I know I say it a lot, but
taken from
honestly,
company
we are
going
most
to
certainly alpha, guys.
they
So
slowly
it's not like we're all here,
shut
right?
off
So
the
it's working.
servers
It's a
as
working
basically go
platform.
away
It works.
we
It
have
serves
to
our
keep
needs.
marketplace.
But you should be able to expect that there's going to be things that don't work quite the way you wish they would. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be problems. To get the most enjoyment and appreciation out of everything, I think you should come from that standpoint, that it is alpha, that it's gonna have problems, right?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
with the gun. No, it's just in reference to because you want to be, inviting people over, and I think that's great, and we should, right? New people, but I think that we don't want to guess muddy the waters. We don't wanna. Gosh, I'm trying to come up with a term for this, but you know what I mean.
Dog
Poison the
fooding.
well. I
You
don't
don't
know.
want to seed doubt in their minds that they, to stop them coming back in the future when it's all good,
Yes,
right?
Well, this is why I
exactly.
spoke about hand holding.
Yeah,
Yes, and explain
basically.
to them the truth of it.
Well, I told it you can hold my hand with all four of yours.
I'm not touching
So
anybody right
this
now.
is
Okay.
why I was thinking about so much about hand holding.
Yeah,
Is
right.
that, like,
Elbows
anybody I
only.
personally bring in is going to be somebody I'm willing to spend at least a couple hours with getting set up. Like, I just had an old friend come by yesterday, who had a high fidelity domain, right? And their domain expired, and they kind of thought that was that. But I went ahead and I hooked them up, and I connected their domain with mine for the time being, and set them up with a link on the Explorer, so there basically everything they had is still completely visitable. You can visit it now as if it were a regular high fidelity domain.
I told her what's quite hilarious about that is the fact that the other year when my daughter went to pick up her new car, they just handed her the keys. And here we got to handhold people for 2 hours so they can work out how to use the damn thing.
Well, talking about me, but I understand. Yeah, it is what Kalila was saying. It is, this is a work in progress. There's going to be problems. There's going to be changes. So if you do bring anyone in, make sure they know what's up.
And know what
make
to
sure
expect.
they feel they have somebody.
But what I'm saying is, like, they just hand you the keys to something that can literally kill people minutes later.
Yeah.
And
but they might, but they've probably had classes in school telling them how to use it.
Metaphors aside, I think what's important here is that we are
no kidding. Okay, thanks for that.
We are in a testing stage right now, and anybody who participates in our platform has to understand that, developer or not, they are helping us to test this platform.
Yeah.
So that's, that it's important that people have the expectation that they're going to be a crash test dummy and are willing to do that. Lots of people are, fortunately.
Well, then
Hand out free
advertise it
Project
as
Athena helmets.
early alpha, and make them sign an NDA, and then they'll want to do it.
That's actually a
An
great way to
NDA?
do it. A lot of people, at least people from Steam, they're used to early access, right? They know what that term means. They know that it means things can be broken or unfinished or etc.
Yeah.
And
I think what
in terms,
did someone check the text, Marcus, to see what Control Out David said?
he said to set the correct expectations.
Yeah.
And in terms of events, yes, we should absolutely have events, and because from a practical side, that means that the more events we do, the more practical testing we can do. Whether it's simply load testing or testing the functionality of the interface itself.
So should we imbue people with a sense of pride that they are here testing and helping us? Is that the way to go?
I mean, a little bit. If they really care about what we're doing and they care about, the future of VR, for example, that's what we're trying
So we should
for here.
tell them, they should know that we appreciate them being here.
Yes, exactly. That is very true. And for the people
your
who are
feedback
always here
is generally welcome. As long as it's not negative, then we're going to kill you. No, just kidding.
Yeah, just get constructive feedback. If you have bug reports to file, if you have suggestions, thoughts, come on, talk about it. Come to the meetings. Let's talk it over and figure out what we need to do differently and how we can do it better.
Not just that, but we're trying to build a metaverse here. So if you can build and
we're not
create,
trying to build a
that's
metaverse
great.
at all. We're not trying to. But what we're trying to do is make this thing work as an interface to whatever metaverse is out there. But we're not building a metaverse. We're not doing that. That's a delusional notion.
Well, I mean, if you want to create your own domain and put stuff into creating a domain, then we should be able to help you, because this is kind of a blank canvas here, but we need to make sure that the brushes work. So, I mean, content is probably just as important as abilities here. Otherwise, if you just log in and there's no one here and there's nothing to see, then why are you here?
Well, actually, there's a good point on the events about that. When we come for events, like, you don't have to stick around after or before, but I think that having a reason to come is a pretty big deal, because then we can always convert that later. So coming for trivia is really fun. Coming for these meetings is cool. Going to salon is, again, fun. And I think that we should do more of that, because that's a functional use that this platform excels at. I can't think of any other place to go that it would be better than here. So we should play to our strengths while we have them and just use it. I think that solves that problem, at least in part. Heather?
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Thanks, Duke.
What is that?
Great game.
My name's Duke Nukem.
Okay.
So, hi, Blue Sail. Welcome. I think, is this your first time?
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's my first time here.
Welcome from Germany. That's where you come from, right?
Yes.
I guess that because you had the word Segler in your.
Yes, I'm from Germany.
Yeah.
Well, we're very happy.
Willkommen.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say about yourself?
Not really. I actually went here just to play a normal game.
Wie geht es dir?
Gut.
Oh, it's awesome. Faces.
What is the project Athena? Is it the new version of high fidelity?
In short, yes.
It's an offshoot, yeah.
There's a longer story to that.
It's a community project based on the high fidelity engine, essentially. So you could look at it that way, but it's high fidelity is not running the show with it.
Yeah.
Yes, I already heard that high fidelity is shutting down.
The Patients have taken over the asylum.
Well, they yeah.
Still exist, and they're doing other things now.
I cannot hear you. Sorry.
Oh, you can't hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, you're very silent.
Oh, can anyone else hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you are a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Quiet,
You're
but
fine.
But I max up my people volume, so.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
High fidelity itself.
How can I change someone's volume?
You open
so
the
you
people
can click
menu.
on that little button that says people at the bottom of your screen, and then you find the person who is talking. Actually, you can crank up the whole thing if you want. Oops, button is side. Here we go.
Really? Where's the crank up the whole thing thing? I don't get that.
Where did it go?
I have found it.
Was there not a master at one point?
Oh,
Never
shit.
mind.
Yeah, I thought there was a big one at the top at one point. I guess not.
It would be an audio. You have to click on audio and scroll to the bottom.
Yeah, the master is gone with the last.
Oh,
step
I forgot they moved that to audio. God, they did that a
Yeah.
while ago, and it's just been a while since I.
And that's
moved
very annoying, isn't it? We should probably think about
anyway.
putting an alias in the other one.
Yeah, so there is a master in the audio menu, and if you scroll down to the bottom, it just says people.
I found it.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, and then individuals are in the people menu. So cool. But short version of what I was saying. So high fidelity is, you started to mention, the company, they're doing other stuff. So they've kind of set the project and says, well, here it is. If anybody wants to do anything with it, anybody can. So we are a group of people who are making a fork of it, right? So we're adding features and basically trying to pick up where they left off. And we're not the only ones, mind you. We're just doing this live here in the existing metaverse as we transition over to it. Or whatever you want to call this.
Okay.
Either way, it's good to have you. It's lovely to see new faces. And returning ones like Ryan here. Yep. Oh, hi, Twinkle.
Yeah, been great to see you back, Language.
Oh, and by the way, if you're ever interested in finding out what's happening with this, there is a Discord server for it. And it could give you an invite if you like.
I'm already in the server.
HFM? Okay.
No, yes, HFM, yes.
Cool.
This guy here invited me.
Yeah, I did it because it took a while to figure it out.
Okay. Nova Joan. You gotta watch out for Nova Joan, though. He might beat you to a pulp with that bat. Dangerous.
Not if I take it first.
Be right back, guys.
Okay. How did I get that?
Yeah, anybody got anything else they want to talk about while we're here?
The food in Wagamamas is good.
The what?
The food in Wagamamas.
Hail to the king, baby.
What is that?
It's like a Japanesey kind of restaurant.
Does sound.
You know, they said anything you want to talk about. I was just...
That is anything. No, it's pretty good.
Fair enough. I did say that.
The squid was very good.
I have an important announcement. Happy Pi Day.
Yeah, you're about an hour late.
You could do that.
But thanks anyway for it, Ronnie. So
This is the first time I'm hearing it here.
I'm gonna pass it over to Marcus. Marcus, start reeling it off, please.
Oh dear Lord. Nobody wants
3.1415. Come on.
He can do it for a long time, Marcus. I've heard him do
He's
it.
making it out.
I guess anyone can
open
do
it up on a website. Go ahead and I can do maybe 30 places.
Really?
Yeah, that's good enough for kind of accuracy.
I used to have a whole 100 back in like 7th grade, but they've dropped off over time.
Can you do it now?
All right. Yes, 3.1415926535897932384623884279519171. And that's about as far as I'm going to get right now.
That is really good.
Just
I don't even know how many that is.
I don't want to be sort of like Debbie Downer or anything, but they have actually calculated it to 1 billion places.
Sure. It's a hobby for quite a few people.
Curious one.
I think
made a pie for Pi Day a couple of years ago here. Sorry, that wasn't very exciting, but I just thought. What were you going to say, Piper?
No, I just think you got to think that if something as fundamental as pi can't be defined, then maybe our whole number system is wrong.
Well, you can operate in base pi, then pi is just 1, and problem solved.
Really?
Speaking about the definition of pi, is cheese?
Yeah, you think radians are just a base pi kind of thing.
It seems like a cake. I mean, it seems like a pie, sorry. It has a crust and everything. Once my mouth is full.
I agree.
I thought you said base 5. You said base pi, yeah?
Yes, base pi.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a really easy way to deal with everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's what radians are after all. It's pretty much base pi.
Yeah. Cool.
By the way,
So of course the other question, Dale, is why aren't we using tor instead of pi? Because pi is the wrong number, right?
Huh?
Well, we always do like 2 pi something, whereas we should be using the thing which is 2 pi, which is tor, TAU, right?
Hey, just out of curiosity, Kenneth, when you're filming,
Yeah, piece of cake.
Are you filming on a version of Athena so that you see all the things happening in chat, or you just see silence and nothing else?
I think he's gonna go AFK.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay.
I wonder which one's more preferable. Depending on what chat
it's just
says.
like there's gaps in conversation when we're actually talking in chat, and it just it looks like
Yeah.
we're just staring at each other.
But I would like to take this moment to really appreciate chat. I mean, come on, guys. Remember when we didn't have it? Like how we are able to have 2 conversations in parallel? Somebody could ask a question without interrupting the person talking? Yeah, that stuff is awesome. Seriously.
Honestly, when my friend came in the other day, that was the first thing he's like, "Finally, at last," because he'd been here a year ago.
I know, right?
Yeah, and he really, really wanted that, and there's always sort of hints about it maybe happening, but it was, it just kind of sat there, and now we have it. So
exactly,
I think that's cool. Basically means a bunch of my old friends who don't speak on the internet but want to interact now can. So that's a big deal to me.
That's perfect. On our road to 10 users, this is going to be invaluable.
I'm still going road to 100, but I suppose it's good to have baby steps.
Yeah, it's baby steps because we'll be here all day if we try for 100 in one go. See, Blue Sail is +1. All right, this will work. Blue Sail, are you committed to staying forever and ever? So help you God.
What?
I don't think that's how it works.
No, you have to marry the product. Gosh darn. Come on.
Like coming into
yes.
Like going into the bar and saying, "Okay, well, you have to walk out married now."
Pretty much. So you have to come back to only that bar.
I just want to play some pool,
Yeah, that's one way to measure it. But yeah, I'm glad these meetings happen. We can come. And by the way, guys, it's a community meeting. I mean, we don't always have to be talking about the project. We are a community, and we mostly come on for these meetings. So there isn't that much other times that we might interact directly. So yeah, if there's something you just want to talk about, something going on in your life, it's all good. I mean,
Yeah, like your
we're not
favorite
always talking
Japanese
project
restaurant.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it makes it fun. Bonds people.
I'm just wondering, the chat here, which tab do people mostly use, the domain or the local?
Honestly, it's like a switch up. David uses
So
the
here's
wrong
the
one every
thing.
time.
Here's the thing. If you just press enter to talk, you notice how it pops up. And you're like, hello. That's going to local. So the default whenever you talk is basically in a 20-meter radius from where you're at.
Just in time.
You know,
so
but if you
does
want
it
to reach
always
out a
show
little
up on
deeper.
domain then? I don't quite get it.
Okay, let's break it down. So basically there's three main settings, right? One, when it's in local, and that's, if you just press enter and start typing, that's considered local, right? So only people within 20 meters of you will see that message, okay? If you're on domain, right, then everybody in this entire region, or whatever you want to call this server, will be able to hear you, right? And if you click on grid, that's basically everybody using Project Athena, or the version of Project Athena that we're on. So two of those are within the domain. One is just a very narrow range, and that's the default. So by default, it's just the people who are in your immediate vicinity. And you will notice that when you type and you see it pop up at the bottom left, it has an L for local, a D for domain, or a G for grid. So you can actually look and see which one you're talking on. There is probably ways that could be made clearer in the future. I agree.
Yeah, I just I understand the /L and /D, that's was common for all you command line people. But I like a more visual thing. That's why I like the tabs in the top, but I just wasn't quite sure of the extent, because I've never seen anything on grid. But then
Yeah,
again,
not a
I
lot
guess
of people
nobody
are
talks.
using it.
Yeah.
Grid was broken though for a little bit, because basically it was attached to a different server while it was being developed, and then that server I think was gone. But now with the upcoming versions of Athena, I'm on a version now that has a correctly functioning working grid chat. So that version that'll be out in a few days, then we'll all be able to use grid and see each other.
I just tried grid, doesn't seem to be working.
So is Project Athena, is it a client that you download? Because I'm on the normal hi-fi client right now.
Yes, Project
Yeah, we have a client.
Athena.io.
Okay.
Let me just make an announcement right here while everyone's here
So
about
people,
sorry?
so people can play together while using different clients.
Yes.
Yeah,
As
got
long
a
as
couple
they're
of them
on the
in here.
same protocol.
Yeah. So
Okay.
some clients make that jump and then it's incompatible.
So for the moment, we're still synced up with the original high fidelity, or not the original, but the final high fidelity protocol before the project was left. But that will not be a for everything; it's a for now thing.
Okay.
Because there will be a point that we.
So I will have to switch from hi-fi client to Project Athena client.
Eventually.
Okay.
Oh, Kalila, just out of curiosity.
If you want any of the features we were talking about, like the chat and all that, that's when you switch over.
Okay.
And that's how, we're going to be able to find people. They're going to be using a different domain system very shortly. So.
Will the new RC2 have an appropriate process name?
Yes,
okay,
I think so.
Just
I
curious.
believe Marcus fixed that problem in CMake.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, it was a simple one-liner. I didn't.
I
even
imagined
bother
it would be, but yeah.
I did it directly on GitHub. It was so simple. So yes, that's
excellent.
Yes.
So, so for anyone who's using the chat, the grid chat is not working. That is because we're using an older client. So way back when I did fix the server, I redeployed a server to our metaverse server, and it's all working, but you don't have the latest URL. So when you download the new client, when we release it, it will work. It's working for me because I'm using, like, I manually switched out the scripts myself, which you can too from GitHub if you want. But yeah, the grid chat does work. It's just that you're using an outdated version where the server was offline. But on the new one, it's working just fine. So don't worry about that.
So yeah, in a few days we'll all be synced up there.
Yeah, we'll all be on the latest changes. I was like so confused. I'm like, why is grid chat not working? It's working for me, but I'm like, no. Yeah, I changed like 27 days ago. It's been a while actually.
Oh, by the way, that is a nice time to bring up the beta scripts that you mentioned earlier again. Because we're going to have this beta feature, when things like do get new features, specifically the chat in this case, you'll be able to switch over to it and see it live if you want to, without actually having to download anything. There'll be just a checkbox for it. So it's like, oh, we've got a beta where we fixed the grid mute button or something. Let's pretend it was broken. Yeah, you just swap over and try it out, and like, yep, it's working. And then you could swap back if you wanted. Just a checkbox. So
that brings up another question about that beta thing. Has the repository for that, in other words, the place that it gets downloaded from, been switched over to a Athena-based site, or is it
Well, we
still on what's
specify
his
different
name?
URLs. So, for example, actually, remarkably enough, the chat app is only linking to Fluffy's main online thing, and I don't think he's updated it recently. So switching to beta chat app won't really fix anything, but it will in the future when we get those things organized. The functionality is there. So when we do change that, it will work.
Well, no, but more specifically, I was talking about the actual list of available beta scripts, because I think if I looked at the code right, it took it from the root of where the original script was taken from.
I'm so confused. It doesn't get pulled from the repo, but it could. We haven't added links for many of the apps. Only a couple apps have their beta links set up, but when we do add their links, they will pull from the main. They'll pull from the latest.
are we maybe getting confused with the other PR? Was it 187 or something? And
Well,
that is the one where we have
More?
the More app.
maybe that's what I'm thinking. So that's a separate thing.
Yes,
That is,
completely
yeah.
separate thing. That app is for third-party apps, community-made apps that are not really meant to be shipped with the client by default, or at least not yet.
I see.
And
Okay,
yeah,
I was
that
confused.
gets
Sorry
pulled
about
from the
that.
repo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Steam
Yeah.
Greenlight or something.
How dare you be confused, sir?
Yes. Well, no,
But some of
I
those
just.
could end up being key features in the future. You never know.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
the only reason I asked was because I noticed that was coming from a specific place, and there was no way to really tell if it was, if I was worried that somebody could just come along and change, a known app to something else that was malware or something, and there would be no way, you'd have no way of knowing it. So.
Oh no, this is all in Git. So the app, that More app, it pulls from Git. So you would be able to see, and we would be able to code review, pull request. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll know if somebody tried to do something like that.
Yes. Okay.
We're just
Never
not going to
mind.
give those as much scrutiny unless we decide they become key features.
Yeah.
Yep.
Replace the app with the Trojan. Yeah, Trojan won't happen because it's pulling from Git. So, I mean, if they figured out a hack in between URLs, well, then we have bigger problems. I think a lot of people have bigger problems if that was the case. But yeah.
Yeehaw.
Isn't that what Marcus is supposed to say?
Giddy up.
Okay.
I'm
I think
secretly
we have a
just
rodent
breathing
problem.
coronavirus right into her hair.
Well, at least eat some lime first. Corona and lime just goes together.
Oh, there's an event. We could have a coronavirus infection party here.
Yay!
I already
Who wants to
suggested
model the?
CoronaCon earlier.
You know, guys, what if we did host that? How many people would show up?
We could have the
Probably
virus
about
like as the
16.
disco ball in the middle of the dance floor.
Right?
Yeah, the virus is beautiful looking.
No, but like, I bet you a lot of people would show up. You get like 100
I can't load.
I actually thought it
for
would
the
be
main.
fun to do a domain and just have like just model some various viruses and have their structures floating around. Cool.
Yeah, well, I vote for
I
AI
think we still have
virus.
we still have access to that domain cell.
Yeah, I was thinking about cells. Was it cells or
Cell's
cell?
perfect.
That was a cool domain.
You know, something like that would be a great demonstration for people. Like, there's a lot of educators on Second Life, for example. So if they came over here and saw something like that, where they can interact with the actual viruses, for example, even if it's just for demonstration purposes, I feel like that would be very inspirational for them.
I think it's certainly a good time for us to be showing off what the platform's capable of, especially now that we've got some software out there that people can use.
Well, I'm aware that George and Ryan here are doing some excellent work in terms of practical applications for the platform.
George is always doing awesome stuff. So is Ryan. Awesome.
And what's really important, what you guys are doing is very important. And if you run into issues, do not hesitate to file them, because you're doing this stuff that people who want to do meetings or educational stuff, those are important.
Now more than ever.
Well, yeah, now more than ever. But even now it's just pretty much honed in. It's pretty much put a bullet point on the idea that these are valuable. Yeah, doing things in world, whether you're in VR or not, this is a valuable platform, a valuable tool to have in your tool set. I actually did visit your spaceship, Ryan. I met the two NPCs.
Oh, there's NPCs there. Okay,
There are a couple of NPCs sitting at a table, just chilling out. They've got a translator there. They've got a little thing with the model of the solar system. It's pretty cool.
I just took him as being AFK. Didn't realize they're NPCs. I didn't even try to interact with them. Just like, oh, there's some AFK people over there.
Sometimes I have them running, sometimes not. I think one's running right now, but they're both sitting there.
Cool.
We've also talked about the idea. I don't think we're ready for it yet, but we've also talked the idea about doing like tours of really awesome domains and things. Maybe having stream to Twitter or something. And I know that both Ryan's and George's domains would be excellent places to start.
I have a suggestion, and it's possible others have suggested this before. Why don't we bring back something like the Welcome Wagon? You guys remember the Welcome Wagon? For those of you that were around,
yes,
it was slightly before my time.
Okay, so
but I'm aware of it.
Okay, so what that was there was a physical object, and it looked like some kind of bus or something, right? And basically, it would go from domain to domain, and whoever was on it would get teleported, and it would have like a little announcement said, "Hey, we're moving to the next domain. Everybody get on board," and you'd have like a minute to get over to it, and then you hop on it, and boom, the tour moved to the next domain. And at the time, that was where the greeters, which is a job I ended up doing, but it was after that. But the greeters would be with the welcome wagon, so people who would come in would get to see more domains, and just kind of you'd have this organic experience as you traveled along. It's pretty cool. I don't know if the code to that was open source. Probably not. Or it was even out there anymore. But
I'm pretty sure I'd have to double check. I'm often wrong about these things. I'm pretty sure it was in one of the hi-fi content repos.
Well, it might be worth digging up again. Not sure if it still work, but might be worth
Right.
seeing.
So we have George and Ryan. Maybe hyperspace would be good too.
Yeah, I wonder how it shows its locations. I wonder if it's just like here's a JSON and it just goes to the places on the JSON, or if it was like more dynamic. I don't think it was dynamic. I think it was a preset list of domains. So there must have been something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you
knowing High
rotate
Fidelity,
it
it
through
was
the same ones.
yeah, knowing High Fidelity, it was a bit curated because you don't want to wind up in a domain that's somebody's dungeon.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you would do it if it was like you'd have people who wanted to participate had a different version of the GoTo or something, like a different version of the GoTo cube they put in their domain, and that basically said yes, you can land here with the welcome wagon or something. Then again, there's permissions and other things to consider, so I don't know.
You know, if we could get like a portal dropper going, that would be a pretty good interim, you know? Like when we're at a meeting like this, we just say, hey guys, let's go here. And then just drop a portal in the middle of the table and everyone just runs in. And then
So there were like 4 portal droppers out there at one point.
Is any of the developers around still?
I think, well, at least one of them is sort of kind of around, but I don't want to. I mean, I could poke at them and see if it's something they're willing to share.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about the other one.
What about toys? What about toys? Elbows, toys.
Poke.
Yeah, Toys is busy, you see. Toys is busy on an API of metaversiness. Right? Right, Toys? I think he's playing dead.
Is there any list? Is there any server list? Because when I'm going to the go-to, there are not very much places where I can go.
Oh,
so the version that's coming out in a few days has a new Explore app, right? And the Explore app is the new Athena listing of domains or places you can visit.
Oh, okay.
So you will see that shortly. Just give it a few days, and then get when we release Project Athena, download it, and you'll be able to do that.
So, Blue Sail?
Yes?
Didn't you used to come in here with a friend?
No, I just downloaded it today, the client. I went on YouTube and I saw people playing Hi-Fi.
Oh, right.
And
It's just your voice seems familiar.
And then I downloaded it, and
does he remind you of Akira?
Yes, and I wondered why there's no start location and why there are so few people online. And
well, we were all waiting for you to show up.
It's about time.
We were waiting for you to show up.
Cool.
Yeah, it's mostly just a question right now that, well, if there's nobody around, then people don't stick around, and well, that's a kind of a issue. So really, the population needs to grow a little bit so that there are people around at all times, and that will help a lot, I think.
I was going to make a suggestion that those of you that can be around, like when we do this release, I mean, if you have time to just hang around and have your avatar here while you're working on projects and stuff, it definitely like does a lot to help when people come in.
But I have, reminds me, I have a small suggestion. Kenneth, are you around?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you think it will be possible to bring the cinema back? I'd like more reasons for people to hang around in World.
I need to load it up and take a look and see what scripts work, and I'm pretty sure if I needed to, I could get hold of Maki and them and, get a hold of whatever we need to get it running. But yeah, we need to do at least a movie night or something in here. And I'd love to have the cinema back. I enjoyed the hell out of that. At least when people were here.
And I'm thinking not just movies, really. Like, I'd like to be able to set it to YouTube or something and just have people watching around any random thing.
Sure.
Yes, we need a shared viewing experience.
Is this here the default starting place from the Athena client?
No.
No. Yeah, they are working on a new starting area, and it's looking and coming along really, really well there.
Which I wonder, can we set that ahead of time? Like, that is something we probably should maybe set for K2, like put a portal in when you load into the tutorial, right? Should we have a portal or should it just load straight into the hub.daleglass.net? What are you thinking about that?
I'm all for that idea personally. I mean, we just need to get a serverless domain together. We need to do that. Actually, on reflection, there's two things we really need: the serverless domain, and then for people who actually do host sandboxes, we do need a starter domain as well.
Well, so I have what is basically, I have what is literally like a mesh that has some dunes, but it also has a grid superimposed on it. So it's like a dune grid. And I mean, I feel like that could be a sandbox starter, just something very simple.
They're simple, but what if we gave people like the hub as a starter domain option?
They get
that
confused.
Would be interesting. Right.
If your starting domain matches...
Yeah, no, we make it clear. Like, we can change things, right? We can maybe move stuff around. But I don't know, I just feel like it would be a template that people feel like they already have more to work from, for example. So then they just add to it.
Template is nice, but I would suggest it not be the same content. Because this was a constant thing when I worked for High Fidelity, was basically you had the sandbox, and it had the exact same content as the serverless tutorial. And so people were constantly like, in the serverless tutorial, trying to move things around. They're like, my sandbox won't save. Every time I go back, it's broken. I'm like, well, no, that's not the sandbox. That's the serverless tutorial. But it looked exactly the same, and it's understandable that it was confusing. So I am adamantly against making things identical.
Yeah, not identical.
But it would be nice to have
giving them like a
something.
template like that.
Sure.
So they
as
don't
long
feel
as it's
like
unique.
Yes, because in a creative process, especially when you don't have too much time, kind of feels daunting because then you'll start dropping stuff and you'll be like, oh, this is not even near what I envisioned, and then you just give up. But at least if you have something you can have and then add to it, I feel like that would be helpful to some people. Because, not everyone's like Blender skilled or anything like that.
Well, one thing that we can do rather than sitting around and trying to build everything from scratch, and I think Fran and a couple people had gotten together and made some links to free content.
Yes.
So we could sort through some of that, assuming it's, what was it, CC 0 or some sort of Creative Commons.
CC 0. CC 0.
Yeah, so we should be able to use some of that. It's just, here's some starting stuff.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
Was that in the content section
Yeah,
of
I
the
can
Discord?
post that. I have the links on another computer. I can post them again if you need them.
Just a heads up, folks. I am going to change my legal name to be CC0 by deed poll.
So that everything has to be attributed to you, right?
Yeah. It's a good plan. People just be giving me all their stuff.
I'm going to become a transvestite too. CC.
Just like the way he says it. That's a good plan. Yeah. Anyway, it's 4:09, huh? But I don't think you have to officially end. I don't know. But Toys likes to throw his gong.
Where is this going anyway? I always hear it, never see it.
Toys hides it in very special places. Don't ask.
Okay.
Hide a gong.
By the way, Kenneth, I meant to ask you earlier. Are you able to see the text on screen, or are you using using like the high fidelity viewer?
Oh, I'm using Project Athena, so yeah, the chat conversations scroll up, and everybody should be able to see that.
Okay, people get to see that. Okay.
Yeah, and I've also got an overlay, so any
Yeah.
chat that happens on the Twitch side gets, should show up on the video too.
I got you.
For whatever that's worth.
Well, I'm just concerned sometimes when we kind of switched over to just talking in chat, and I didn't know if anybody who was watching would actually know, and they just see us standing around for a minute staring.
No, thankfully it is captured there pretty good. And
Don't
Fluffy
think
picked a
we
nice big
underestimate.
font, so it's good and visible.
So while we're here talking about chat, what are everyone's feelings on optional sounds for when messages pop up?
Or like when the window's not focused.
Yeah, well,
Just sort of a
it's like
notification
keyboard
noise.
messaging, and sometimes it goes by so quick you don't notice it. But if there's a little, right, and you had, of course, the option to turn it off because some people won't want it.
I was going to say that could get annoying in a damn hurry. Bing, ding,
Yeah, again,
ding, bing, bing,
the
bing,
key
ding.
is optional, right? So
Yeah,
I'd like
I'd like to
I
be
would
able to
certainly
set
use it.
those sounds to anything I wanted.
Oh, that's another thought too, being able to swap it out. I was debating whether or not you would want to have different sounds for depending on which type of chat, grid chat versus whatever, or since there's 3 different ones, would that just all get convoluted and messy? What icon? Oh, you're talking about on the bar?
I think it really makes sense to have 3 different sounds, but I think really on a long term, grid chat is not going to last.
What do you mean?
I mean, if we get any kind of serious user base, it's going to be horribly spammy and irrelevant to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see the grid chat as a permanent thing, but just thinking about right now.
I guess a group chat might take the place of grid chat.
So, Ryan, the local chat is people who are 20 meters from you, and then domain chat is the entire server, and then grid chat is like everybody using Athena. So they could be on a different server. And when you type, your default is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, but somebody posted something in local, didn't pop up in domain, or somebody typed in domain, didn't pop up in local, so we're all here, right?
They're separate from each other, yeah. Each one has a separate tab.
That's my understanding.
It's probably because if you're in 20 meters from the other person and then type in domain, you don't want it to show up twice, but I guess a combined chat would be good. Like a combined
well,
window.
it is combined on your screen at the bottom left.
Yeah, but that goes away.
It's true. I wouldn't mind having the ability to alter the length of time that things pop up there.
I think there's a lot of customization to be had in here, honestly.
Sure.
Oh yeah, and you know what else we could use? Text-to-speech option.
There was a high fidelity based one that people would use here and there. It would be kind of cool to integrate something like that. Another switch on there. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Guess we should make that an issue if we're interested in that.
I think so. I think there's a couple issues there actually we should make.
Do we want to separate issues from suggestions? Because right now there's, I've been putting suggestions as well as bugs in there.
Okay, so
text to speech still works.
Nice.
For now.
We'll have to take a look at it. But yeah, we can
Yeah.
just tag it differently in the issues tab because there's already tags, and we can just sort by that. So that's pretty good. We'll just have to go back and set tags for all of them.
We should have some standards when it comes to how we tag. Make sure everybody knows what those are too.
I was also thinking as like a plugin for the Metaverse API. You know how you will have like chat, or maybe not. I'm thinking about it differently. I just don't know. I think we should have like a way to make it easier to bridge chat, like Twitch chat, for example. Imagine, but not just Twitch, but imagine if, our chat messages could be entered into the Twitch chat room, and then anyone that types in the Twitch chat room gets transferred over here, just like a Discord
Is
bot.
there some kind of universal API that's like a go-between between things like Discord, Twitch, and everything else?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know OAuth for things like, authentication, but I don't know about that. But it would just be interesting to put on a webhook. So at least like GitHub, GitHub has webhooks, and that's how it works with so many apps. That's how we have our GitHub bot. So if we did that, it will at least be accessible to anyone who does make bots. That would be interesting.
In regards to text-to-speech, that was part of the hi-fi content repo. It's Apache licensed, so we can go ahead and abscond with that and do anything we want.
We can. Ooh,
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, we should bring that into the chat as an option.
How is it made? How is it set up?
Essentially, it uses Google.
And Google's okay with that?
No, wait a minute. No, it uses. I think that was a Windows only thing, and it worked with Microsoft's text-to-speech stuff.
Does Linux have a similar so that we can interface it with both later?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but Linux has something called like A-Speech or something.
It has a bunch of things, really.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Some more standard than others. It's just a matter of selecting what we think is the best one and asking people to install it.
I guess this is less a community question, more dev team question, but when this release comes out, do we have, what is our intentions as far as shifting work towards the Metaverse API, specifically in account security?
Well, Metaverse API is kind of like all in one. I guess this is what gets made first, and that would be accounts and domains. And so Toys has been working on the Metaverse API. Akira is going to help him. Yep. And so it's just a matter of getting the first iteration. And it's going to be done with TypeScript and Node.js. So it's accessible in that way. So once it's on a repo, if we need to update something or make like a suggested edit, we could do that more easily, depending on your skill set. So that's good. So yeah, so hopefully that resolves our problems of having something that's a little bit black boxed.
I just wasn't sure if it was in the works yet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It is. Metaverse API, let it be known, guys. Metaverse API has been and is in the works actively.
Cool.
It has not and will not be forgotten.
Oh, I think when Kenneth switches avatars, that usually means he stops. But I could be wrong. Kenneth, are you still recording?
Nope, I'm still recording.
Oh, okay.
I just got bored with looking at my cloud head.
Keep your clothes on for now.
Yeah, we'll have the cream corn wrestling after. Ew.
Wait, well, what's that?
Never mind.
No, I want to know.
Creamed corn?
It's gross. It's what creamed corn is.
No, cream corn.
You know what's
good,
weird?
though.
I don't think it's that bad, honestly. I don't mind creamed corn, to be honest. not something I have often, but I
Ew.
have had it and gone. It's all right.
Well, what's wrong with it? It tastes good. It's sweet.
I throw a little salt on it.
It just looks and smells like baby vomit or something. I don't know.
It doesn't have the
Something about the consistency is
visually,
just
it's not
wrong.
terribly appealing, but the actual taste and mouthfeel is not bad at all. This has been Creamed Corn Facts.
Educational and entertaining.
Corn with like, oh, you're losing your teeth and this is all you got left. It's creamed corn.
Well, in that case, I should stock up, right?
Like nursing home food.
For sure.
Get yourself a blender.
Yeah, I imagine it's the kind of stuff that's better like cooked and stuff.
Spain? Dale?
What? Sorry?
Did they lock down Spain? I heard they were.
Not entirely, but pretty much, yeah. Everything is getting closed.
Yeah, things were bad in Madrid, right?
Yeah, I'm stuck sitting in my room pretty much.
Yeah.
And
No
I'm not
toilet
even in
paper?
Madrid proper.
Is everybody buying all the toilet paper the way they are?
A bunch of people, it seems, for whatever reason.
Yeah, we're all out of toilet paper, so I've started raising rabbits.
But yeah, I don't really see the point because the shops are open, and that's really pretty much the only thing that's open. So, not
stores and pharmacies.
Yeah, just food stores really, and you can't buy clothes or anything else pretty much. Maybe if you order from Amazon. So yeah, that's pretty much the situation around here. They've been progressively locking things down and getting unhappy at people gathering in parks and things like that because, well, of course, everybody got the same idea. Well, I have nothing to do. Let's go to the... And everybody goes to the park at the same time and you get a huge crowd in there.
No, as long as you stay 2 meters apart, you're good, right?
Oh God, he coughed. Clear out. Just kidding.
That's probably not it. I had a cold a couple of weeks back, and I'm not sure why, but I get this kind of annoying cough that just stays around for a month or so.
Oh.
Might be some sort of allergy or something. I'm not sure what the hell is it. But
just picking on you. I've got a smoker's cough, and I'm trying to keep it to a minimum lately.
Between people.
What's that?
Well, coughs can be insidious. So they can even be.
Once you get used to coughing,
once you get used to coughing, you tend to keep coughing.
It might be that some kind of inertia.
Yeah.
If anybody coughs around, everybody backs away now.
I can't blame right now.
I have.
I'm gonna start selling big 3-meter circles to people.
It's giant hula hoops.
Or just a big old bubble.
Yeah.
Sure, hamster ball.
Maybe the boy in the bubble. The boy in the bubble.
Or if you want to do something more recent, the Gyllenhaal bubble.
Yeah.
Not that recent, but compared to the other.
Unfortunately, I missed the timing and don't have any kind of mask or any kind of protection except the work mask, and that would be kind of funny to wear it on the street.
A nice welding mask or something.
Oh, sure.
I actually do have
astronaut helmet.
I do have some masks, but I'm saving them for if I actually need them.
So
I also have latex gloves.
Yeah, so guys, I've got one of those Tyvek suits and one of those proper respirators with the 2 cartridges on the front.
Yeah,
and a pair of black gloves. And I'm thinking of putting like an orange backpack on my back and going around with this little sensor unit going beep 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 beep. And you go out to people and it goes if you go near somebody.
This is the real reason we banned you guys from the US.
Yeah, one of those.
I kind of wish I had a hazmat suit and a hatchback. I'd be doing deliveries for people.
Yeah, pretty much like that one. I've got one of those. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I've got a joke face mask that explodes and spews out green powder.
Oh, great time for that.
Oh,
okay.
dear.
That'll inspire confidence.
I'm afraid that would
Walk
be
away from that toilet
a bit of panic.
Yes,
in
I
the
use that in a
UK,
public place. I probably
Twink,
get beat up and stuff.
Twink. In the UK, that's probably fine. In the US, you're probably going to get shot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, just avoid Texas. You'll be okay.
Yeah, in the UK, they say, "Pardon me, is that your green stuff?"
Yeah, my brother took me off of lisinopril because that makes the virus have more things that can attack in you, which it's
Well,
a heart
but do
medication.
you need it? Yeah,
Really?
it's not good.
No, yeah, it's a heart
I-
medication, and it's like in Iran they prescribe a lot of prescription type anti-inflammatories, and their death toll was much higher there in that
Their
country.
death toll is very high. Yep.
And they find out a lot of that has to do with their medications that people are on.
Oh.
Wow, weird. I take that.
Yeah, he told me just to put it away and don't take it
Yay,
until after I've had it or
Twingo.
been cured of it. You know.
We could have our first ever virtual world funeral.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Well, I
Don't
remember having
die.
funerals in Traveler.
At least
We've had funerals in Digital Space Traveler back in the 90s.
Yeah. No, I've been to a lot of them in Second Life.
We've had weddings and funerals. Yeah.
Yep.
At least 4 of them.
I went to a wedding of a kangaroo and a unicorn.
Yeah.
Oh, their children are going to be hideous.
Watch my salt and cholesterol intake.
Oh dear. I'm afraid. Yeah, I hope that's not going to happen anytime soon. I don't think I look decent enough for any kind of formal occasion.
That'd be a
What,
universe.
does that include a funeral?
You don't look decent enough.
Just somebody make Dale some pants. He'll be fine.
I don't know, man. A fox
Dale
in a
says he's
tuxedo is
ugly.
kind of hot.
It's crazy in like the 60+ group, where you have
tuxedo.
a 1 in 5 chance of people dying if they contract
Yeah, great.
it.
Oh boy.
I resemble
Which
that
is why-
remark.
Which we can confine my parents to their house, and we'll bring food to them, and show them how to sanitize things as they bring them in the house, because they're both in their upper 80s.
Whoa. They have to
you
be
got
really
two
careful. They're really at high risk. Yep.
Yeah, if it's 1 in 5 and there's 2 of them, that just increases that odds. So we're doing everything to make sure that they stay away from that as long as possible.
Well, my job told me I have to work from home.
Yeah. Yeah, I just started setting up the VPN stuff for our company so that they can move the accounting machines home and stuff like that and work from home. And none of the techs will go to the shop unless they absolutely have to get parts. But yeah, my brother, he's a doctor, so he's come up here and telling us all these things. Like, oh man, it's like almost like trying to scare us to death. But like he shared with me an article that this Italian doctor posted what it was like the weeks leading up to it and afterwards. And
I know, I saw that. It was horrific. It's like a nightmare.
And just like my brother is saying, it's like a lot of doctors, well, they're working till they're tired, but they also don't want to go home because they don't want to get their loved ones sick because they're working around it.
Yep.
So you should, if you're a person of faith, you should be praying for all the doctors and stuff like that they stay healthy, because they're going through a lot too.
Yeah, that's not going to help anyone, is it? Come on, seriously.
But maybe it's
I'm
better
saying
to...
is, if there's nothing else you can do, I mean, for them,
That's just soporific for the person making the prayers, isn't it? Really, so.
It depends.
Maybe it's better.
Well, no,
to
it doesn't
get
depend
it
on
now.
anything. Prayers do not work.
Maybe it's better to get it now while there's still resources.
Actually, I have seen them work.
Yeah,
but
that's
okay.
the deal. It's really about the
no,
hospital
you haven't.
resources. It's not about the illness. The
You
illness
think you have.
itself, most people recover. It's just how many respirators are there going to be around?
Well,
and the thing is,
schizophrenic no longer has voices in their head, so okay.
what if?
Trust me, it's nothing to do with prayer.
No, what if
Oh, we're not talking about this right now. We're going on to...
Yeah, let's not
What
get
if
into a spiritual
everybody
debate,
in the
guys.
hospital is a COVID-19 person on a respirator, and a 19-year-old comes in from an automobile accident? What do you do?
Yeah.
They're going to be playing God.
Yep.
Well, just like it's scary, it's like within 12 hours you can start getting other people infected once you're infected, but you are asymptomatic, for 5 days or more where you don't even know you're spreading it.
Hell, is it 5? I thought it was 3. Okay.
Well, some people
leave.
might, that's the median though.
Sure.
5 days the median of when people express it. Some people, I'm sure, before that.
So
Some
Franny,
people, it takes weeks to show up, so it's like
when I
now.
Symptoms
when I
of
showed
panic
up
and
this place,
stupidity seem to set on pretty early.
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
What are you saying?
Sorry, what's up,
Franny,
Piper?
when I showed up at this place I'm staying at, I told the guy I was on a boat, and when I got here, he said, "So what country did you come from?" I said, "Watford."
Watford.
Because I was on a boat on the canal.
Did that calm him down?
Yeah, that calmed him down. Yeah.
I went on the website for the Athena client download, and I saw that you don't have a Mac version already. So I wanted to say that I'm on a Mac right now, and I'm using the Hi-Fi Mac client. And I saw that you need web developers, but I could try to help out, but I'm not a professional developer. But yes.
Your offer is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
So
the
how?
person you want to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
How is it planned to be on a Mac? Is it do you want to offer a Mac download on the website, or do you want to upload a client version in the App Store?
It's unlikely
think-
that we'll submit it to the App Store anytime soon. I mean, right now our biggest blocker is none of our devs own a Mac, which makes it very difficult to compile and test. We're hoping to be able to get GitHub. GitHub has some free services that allows us to compile for the Macintosh platform. If we can get that working, we will at least have builds out there. The problem again, though, is only people with Macs will
Can
be able to
develop,
test it.
yeah.
It'll take some time,
Yeah.
sadly, before we have
Yeah,
a Mac. client out.
I'm hoping that will change in the course of the next week, Marcus. So
If you want me to test the client, you can send me a Discord DM.
Well, we also have. Are you part of our Discord channel?
Yes,
Our
I'm
server?
in the HFM Discord.
Okay,
Cool.
because we have a number of channels there, like the QA channel. That will likely, if we need people to help test things, that's a good channel to keep an eye on.
Well, and you've got an
Okay.
actual Project Athena Mac channel too, so it'd be perfect for this, right?
Yes, indeed, we have that as well. Yes, yes.
which has how many messages in it?
Enough that I have to scroll up. Not a lot, but yeah, there's.
Okay, there's some.
It's been a couple months, or it's been about a month since any of the activity's been in there, but there is one.
Haben wir ein deutsche Channel? Because we really need to also look at at some point getting to work on the localization project.
What? Sorry, I was actually still here.
The localization project.
That's on our roadmap.
Yeah.
To Control Alt David, I'm pretty sure, has added it to our
Yeah,
project,
different
like
languages
GitHub.
of the interface.
Look, I don't even speak English. Come on.
Northern California localization. Just add some brevs and some hellas in there.
Yeah.
I think in the near term, our focus is pretty much on getting the K2 release out, getting Hi-Fi's PRs merged into their outstanding PRs merged into our stuff. In other words, all that talk about master branch stuff, and the Metaverse API. Those are our highest priorities right now, I think.
Yes. But localization is important. It's just, getting around to it. At least most people do speak English to some extent because the rest of the gaming software world. So at least helps.
That's just the, it's the
as far as Piper's concerned, he's the only one who speaks English here.
That's not true. That's
Yes,
not
it is.
true.
Yes,
No,
it
it
is.
isn't.
You
No,
said so in the
No,
past.
he speaks British.
You're just borrowing English till you'll have to learn Spanish.
Hablo un poquito de español.
Oh my.
¿Qué? That's all I need to know
No
is
hablo
¿qué?
español muy bien.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, I have no idea what to say.
No puedo.
And I love the only
No
opportunity I've ever
puedo
actually had in
ni una
life to use the
palabra.
French that I know was in
No
Montreal,
recuerdo
Canada,
muchas
and I
palabras.
got to tell somebody at the bank, I don't speak French. Do you speak English?
I can speak French.
Parlez pas. Yeah.
We are
Yeah,
an
you just know all
immensely
the French
international
cuss
community
words,
here.
right?
We have people who are bilingual, trilingual, and more. We have a huge European presence,
I
which
speak
is
kitty
awesome.
cat.
We
I
have
speak
Ryan.
fluent gibberish.
Are you
I don't
saying
know.
I'm overweight?
What?
He
We
said
have
we have a
Ryan
huge
who.
European presence.
Oh, yes.
50-foot woman.
We even have Ryan who, although he is not himself Asian, he works in Asian countries teaching English. So he's even an interface to that part of the world. So
Do you do that? My niece does that. She teaches Chinese children English on Skype.
Cool.
Yep. You only need a bachelor's degree to do that. You make money.
Wait, you need a degree to speak English?
You needed a degree to be okay to teach
I think
Chinese
that's a
children.
decree.
Yeah, China has the biggest population of English speakers in the world.
What?
China got the biggest population of most
In
everything.
the world.
Great.
Population,
Just,
because
yeah. Just the numbers
people
alone.
speak
Yeah.
Coronavirus stuff.
English in
we
their
have
nation than
billions
in
of
any other
people.
nation.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I dispute that.
That's the sheer population, though, that they have that have
At
learned English.
what? At
what level? Yeah. Well,
You know, it was
enough
interesting.
conversational English, I would
You
imagine.
mean up to the level that Trump can speak it? Yeah.
Oh dear.
You know, it was interesting years ago over in
Ooh.
Oeskard. There was
Well,
there was
he
an
is
open
tooting his
sim
horn all the time, isn't he?
installation that that did English and Chinese. It did English for Chinese speakers, and it was interesting in that one. It's like, well, you know, we had Oeskard, of course, has public plazas, and we used to always hang around at LBSA Plaza. And one day they said, "Hey, you know what would be a great way for you guys to practice your English? Just hop into LBSA Plaza and start talking to people." So we got this I think it was like every Wednesday evening or something. We just got a horde of Chinese speakers would come in.
Like a tour group.
Practice their English on us.
Right on.
And they were very nice people. But you know, it was bizarre because it's like we didn't like officially like agree to participate, so it was a little bit messed up. And of course, we had a few people who were like, "China sucks. Your country sucks. Your government sucks." And so that didn't go very well.
Not a sentiment you agreed with, though, Marcus, right?
It's a sentiment that I preferred to put aside and help them practice their English.
Exactly.
You're not
Because
dealing
you're
with the
decent guy.
politics, man. Deal with the
Decent guy
people as
person.
people. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I love people. Fuck politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like persons.
Yeah, there you
I even
Yeah,
like
persons.
cockroaches.
So you
Now.
are persons.
With a little bit of salt
What's
and
the
pepper on
difference between people and persons?
Some people do.
Well,
Not me.
I like people as individuals, but when people get together, oftentimes upsetting things happen. But not always the case. Sometimes they come together and make something really cool.
Like Project Athena, for example. Sorry.
For example.
I guess
Maybe
I'm
we
just
oughta-
saying, I'm not so much a people person, but I am a person's person.
A person's person. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ought to call this not a community but a mob, because mobs rule.
Woo.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay.
Better start
Let's
modeling
roll.
those pitchforks.
So with everybody
we
being
have
sent home, do you
Minotaur
think we'll
still
see
Gotta
more
get some
people come
torches,
in?
too.
We're a murder.
Once the new viewer comes out, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to start like giving it some cachet though. Be amongst the first. Be an alpha user.
Well,
Then people want to do it. And
That's when you
if
just
they
walk
wanna-
around pushing everyone else around and telling them who's boss.
That's it.
You want
Shove.
to you want to serialize the downloads so that I've got a really low number, of
Yeah,
KT.
that's it. A limited edition.
Yeah, we're
Well,
only going to give this upcoming viewer to the first 100 users.
Yeah, there you go.
If you want to torrent it, go right ahead. No.
No, the first 10,000 users.
Yeah.
No, we're on the road to 100.
We're on the road to 20.
Unfortunately, I told her the problem with that is that we live in a virtual world, and because the land is flat, the horizon is a very, very long way away.
There is no horizon.
Horizon Facebook.
Because
Under DNR. D whatever.
We just call it redacted.
NDA.
Yeah, that makes me think maybe I should make my next domain have a curved horizon so I won't be called a flat earther.
I was actually debating a flat earther in St Albans of last month, and literally at the end of it, she said, "I don't want to change my mind."
Well, isn't that it?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yep. That's like Trump versus Trump.
Yeah, that's what she said. I don't want to change my mind.
I'm a Luddite.
Happy
and I
with
love
your
it.
delusion, just live with it. Yeah, okay.
Who said schizophrenia is gone?
I wonder if there.com
I may
is
not
the
be
only
a flat
spherical
earther, but
world
I am a
that
fat
there is.
earther.
But
A fat earth.
the Earth is lumpy.
Come on, baby. Back that earth up. Wait, what?
Well, that's.
Do you guys know flat earther memes? They are sometimes very funny.
They are.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
funny.
yeah, they're quite hysterical.
They're delusional.
Oh, there's that flat earther rocketeer guy that finally died.
Yes, I should kill this thing, actually.
Guys.
Yeah, we rang the gong a while ago, I think.
I don't pay any attention to your
He
sound
went out
effects.
doing what he loved.
Yeah.
Everybody wave to the camera.
There's
Like, comment,
there are
subscribe.
two ways to
Bye-bye.
look at that. You could, yes, he was a flat earther, but he was also, when you think about it, he was kind of a rocket pioneer that he managed to get up to that height with just a steam-powered rocket.
He was a flattened by the earther.
Yeah.
He didn't get up high enough to change his outlook, huh?
No, he didn't achieve that. It's unfortunate,
Yeah.
So yeah, farewell, Mad Mike Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What they have to do is build a really gigantic mirror on the moon so that people can see the Earth from it. And then they might go, "Oh."
We'll just be doing our hair. We so pretty.
But if the sun is in the mirror, then like
Fry like
the
ants.
double amount of sunlight is coming onto the earth, and that's not good for the climate change.
yeah. True. It'll be a slight increase, yeah.
Okay, then make it so it's an aimable mirror so that you can actually schedule where you want it to land. Here, we'll aim it at the ocean, create a larger cloud bank, and hopefully... Oh, now that might hold in too much heat.
Oh, hell, we hit that whale. What a smell. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually started a project yesterday in Blender. I'm going to create a simulation of the Earth and show the difference between the flat Earth and the real Earth.
Oh, that's cool.
But the problem is the very first thing that happened when I made a 12,000 kilometer diameter sphere and subdivided it a few times, my machine just started smoking.
Great.
Well, that's without the elephants and the turtle.
Yeah.
Oh, Vsauce did a thing about the Earth and if it was flat and going about what that would do to gravity. It was kind of interesting.
Actually, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the topic was well, there's a few topics, but one of them was what would happen if gravity ceased to function for just 2 seconds. And they were talking about all the things that would go wrong. Basically, it could.
Yeah, a lot of people
everything.
die because if they're about holding on to something.
No, but that's not even. I mean, that's not even it because we're talking 2 seconds, right?
Yeah, but 2 seconds you'd be up high enough to fall down and die.
How much of the atmosphere would be
They
ripped off?
actually estimated we'd be something like a few inches higher after 2 seconds because you're going, there's centrifugal force, right? So you're going to get going in the direction you were going when it releases you. So you're not going to go straight up. You're kind of going to go forward and just slightly up, whatever, depending on the direction of the Earth, of course.
Yeah.
But there was plenty of other things that would basically like.
Of course, at that point, all of physics has failed, so nothing else counts, does it really?
Well, in the
all the tectonic plates would probably
scenario, the focus was just on gravity alone. But yeah, I mean,
can you imagine the earthquakes that would be triggered by that event?
Going wrong.
Yeah.
Such a massive shock, wouldn't it? Like,
Yeah. Well, what would that do to the centrifugal force of the planet even? It would change the way it worked, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's probably.
No, he didn't say the mass had gone away. He just said the gravity went away.
Just the gravity.
Yeah.
We had that question in the pub quiz the other week, didn't we?
Yeah, that was one of the trick ones. Was that Basinski came over that? Or was it Dale? Was that Dale? I can't remember.
Yeah, we all had
Basinski,
that.
right?
Of course, we don't know what happened to rotational spin if there was no gravity in the mass.
Have no effect.
We're not even 100% sure what gravity is.
And how much of the gravity is helping holding the nuclear forces together? I don't know. All molecules fall apart.
Forgive me redecorating. Thought that was a good opportunity to put my turtles up. Flat Earth and turtles all the way down.
Turtles.
If I go to my go-to tab and go to some other places, and can I still find people?
If you friend one of us, you should be able to do so. And yeah, you should add some of us.
I can try to find people and tell them that they can come here.
Yeah. So the thing is, right now with that go-to tab, the go-to and the people menu are both based, at least partially, on the Metaverse API, which is run by High Fidelity, right? Yes. So some of those features and functions are things we will need to replace. They work for the time being. But if I were to say log out of my High Fidelity account and stick in here as anonymous, which you can do, right? Nobody would be able to see me on the people's list. But for now, if you are logged in with the High Fidelity system, then people can see you on the search as long as you are listed, or you've friended them, or you have contact.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We're all here, but
sign up and get their own login.
But if I imagine right now, if you go to the go-to, it looks like the place is empty, right? Yeah.
Last I checked, the actual the new account system for High Fidelity, at least a few weeks ago, still existed and functioned. But I don't see a lot of point in using it at the moment. But it is there. You could use it if you wanted to.
Okay. Yes, because if some people like me try to play High Fidelity and don't know that they are shutting down, I could explain it to them.
Well, we're at a kind of a really awkward stage here where we have some of the features of High Fidelity still running and we're transitioning over to other features.
For instance, so this meeting, the group that you're seeing now, we'd be on the go-to. It'd show that there are 15 or whatever of us here yesterday or the day before. But the place name just expired, and now we're all invisible, So yeah, we're in kind of an interesting transition spot.
Why don't you show up? Is it because you changed?
It's because it changed, and I had something officially registered that had this place on their little go-to radar map. Now that it's gone away, we're rolling our own solutions like the beacons and everything. And I'm not sure what's up with the beacon. I heard Novahone had some trouble getting here too. We'll look into that. But I just had to
Well,
fixed some
Is
things
there
last night.
even a quote-unquote beacon here, or is it using the new Explore tool from the upcoming builds?
Man, I don't know what you guys doing here.
Okay, so for example, like right now, I'm on the new Explore tool, right? Which may be similar to the beacon, which is something Tim had made, is like a holdover. But it's a different system than the go-to. It was kind of an experiment, and it was useful during like a little crisis where we were losing domains
Yeah,
left and right.
and we were just looking for
But,
some way to connect to everybody. Yeah.
Basically, here's what I would recommend, Loose Sail. Wait a few days for that new build to come out, right? And then reach out to one of us, like maybe myself or anyone else who's around who wants to talk to you, and we can show you how to use the new system, right? And then you'll have a better understanding, and then you can show your friends that you want to bring in.
Okay.
Otherwise, it might just get confused if we brought them in, like say today.
But I will have to run a Windows virtual machine, right? But that's not a problem. I can do this.
Wait, you say you'll have to run a Windows machine?
Virtual machine, because I'm on a Mac right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Mac client.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you were talking about that earlier. I was a little sidetracked, but now I remember.
So I saved the IP address from the server here to bookmarks, and I see that some people are online in the go-to places. I will just go there right now and look what's happening there.
By the way, I don't think there's actually anybody in Brave New World. I think they've
I cannot
something to make it look like people are there. Could be wrong.
Okay, because I actually cannot connect to Brave New World. I don't know why.
I see.
Maybe it's an error of the Mac client.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I could try and go there real quick. Hang on 1 second. Back. I'll be right back.
Okay, I will try out too.